Hi guys, Scrivo here, welcome to the Inner Circle. As I promised last week, we're going straight into looking at Gladius Strike Force lists. So initially I was planning to put together a list I've been running, kind of explain what I was doing with it, break down kind of what units I tend to find I'm always putting into the lists. But instead of that, because we're seeing a lot of events now, especially it being Prime Exodus events, I've actually gone and found 3 event lists that did really well in the last couple of weeks. And then we're going to kind of look at the list, see what they paired into, how those results came, kind of try to kind of gauge what went on there. So let's start at the beginning. Right, so first one is an RTT. So Peterborough Slam do their own custom layouts, which is quite interesting. They're often a little bit more shooting gallery, even than say like the older UKTC layouts. So often you were finding their layouts would then encourage people to bring lists that probably are a bit more gunliney. But as you can see here, Toby Bennett, who actually took out the event in the end, he took quite a, I wouldn't say cookie cutter Gladius list, but this is what we're seeing. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing here is what kind of translates in. So he's got Azrael with a lieutenant with the fire discipline, and I believe he put them together with the 10 Hellblasters. Then he's got 2 squads of Inner Circle companions with librarians. There's some impulsors in the list to kind of get them up there. I don't think they need necessarily those though, because what I found interesting myself is the Shield Dome's great for kind of springboarding them, but if you're just patient and using them as the counter slap, you don't necessarily need them. But I'm guessing he used them as a bit more of an aggressive push. Then there was 5 assault intercessors, led by a sergeant with a plasma pistol and a thunderhammer. 5 normal intercessors. Sergeant's got plasma pistol and power fist. And then 2 squads of Deathwing Knights, both with maces, because obviously they're there to be the anti-monster, anti-vehicle kind of hit, punch type of thing. And then 2 squads of Jump Pack Intercessors, because if you're not building a Space Marine list using them at the moment, what are you doing? And then 2 squads of 5 Scouts. So I won't go massively into his run, because I believe Toby was on his team's podcast / YouTube, Black Kuru Gaming. I'll put a link up above and in the description below. But basically he went round 1 into Orc Bully Boys. The list was very much what you'd expect for Bully Boys. A lot of Mega Knobs, some boys. Very honest, I think its survivability since the day it's late means that it's just gonna not enjoy going into those Inner Circle companions, even in the war turns. But yeah, so that was a 166 to Toby. And then he went round 2 into Ray Harkins with his Death Guard, which I thought was interesting because he didn't have Mortarion. So we're seeing quite often people kind of not going that route now, which is pretty good. It didn't look like it panned out for him though, because it was an 83-39 to Toby. And then round 3 he went up against Darren Chapman, who surprisingly his Drakari was a Real Space Raiders list. He ended up 4th himself. He lost 90-84. The interesting thing about his list is a lot of Talos and some really interesting stuff to see that isn't just that kind of the boats and guys in boats kind of list. So it's kind of interesting to see. But basically they duked out in the final, and Toby just snuck to the finish post there, which is really cool and exciting. I myself am really excited to see kind of the librarian approach, because especially in the UK scene, that seems to be the way that people are going. I've played one of these 3 lists just to see how it played out and just to get my head around kind of the choices made. I see the value of a librarian over things like a Judicia just for the survivability. Obviously not everyone agrees on that, and that's what I find is really interesting at the moment. So right, let's go on to the next one. So the week before we had Sheffield Super Major. So Ben Jones, he took this list, which is the one I've played through. So Azrael, Lieutenant with Fire Discipline, Hellblasters. I feel like that combination, or depending on the matchup, having those things together tends to be quite a good option to have, especially the Lieutenant giving the lethal hits and a cheap way to carry the Fire Discipline, because obviously you can't give it to Azrael. Then he's got Librarians with Inner Circle Companions. He's only got 1 Impulsor. So this was UKTC format boards, which to me, I've been finding more and more that the transports are great, but apart from the kind of the speed boost that it can give you, even in Gladius, you probably don't need it as much, because Gladius, you can have an advance and charge turn. So as long as you staged correctly and you're using them at the right tempo, there's not a problem there. Then he's got Captain with a Relic Shield and a Power Weapon. I assume he puts them with the Assault Intercessors. He could put them with the Intercessors. but you never know. And then he has 2 squads of Deathwing Knights with maces, because I think 2 is the minimum now. 2 jump pack assault intercessor squads and 2 units of scouts. So Ben's run was quite exciting. So he played on the Saturday rounds 1, 2 and 3 into 3 Necron lists. The first one had a monolith, second one didn't have any big stuff, third one had a Tesseract Vault, and he knew what he was doing. He really, really smashed. So round 1 it was 122 to him, and then it was 94-44, and then 100 to 30. I feel like those lists with the uppy downy stuff's all well and good, but in Gladius you can kind of scoot around as much as you want. You can have a unit be put into advance in charge with the strat, so it gives you that flexibility that if someone has tried to put it further away, it's not a problem. And then you've got the jump pack intercessors that are really fast, and then the scouts, if you need to redeploy and be positionally somewhere different, they're there as well. So a nice fun game. Lucky for Ben, round 4, so on the Sunday morning he went into Luke Townsend's Chaos Demons. This list looked terrifying. Had all the Chaos Demon good stuff, so a couple of big Greater Demons, some Blood Crushers. It just looked nails. It looked like it was going to be a good fight in the middle. He won that one 76-53, so a little bit closer. And then round 5, so to push himself into the top cut, because UKTC events often, if they've got enough undefeated players, will do a top cut. So there's often 2 games, so it'll go up to round 7 if you're really, really pushing for the win. He went into Carl Grundy, who had brought a Tau Karyon detachment list, which I've seen him doing a lot with, and so that would have not been an easy fight. It ended up 89-73, so pretty solid victory there. And that's where it kind of goes wrong for Ben, unfortunately. He then, in the shadow round, goes into another undefeated player, a guy called Johnny Simmons, a guy I've played against, been involved at events, playing into and on a team with, who is a really kind of committed AdMech player. So he's there with his Skitarii Hunter cohort. That thing is scary now. So I've not played into it, but on paper you look at it and go, it does a lot of stuff, there's a lot of synergies, and it's terrifying. So he did lose that one, unfortunately, 71-99 to Johnny. And Johnny did go on to, I think it was like he lost in the final, which is such a good showing for the guy. He was the one taking out some of my local RTTs when they weren't good. When AdMech weren't given the buffs, he was still taking them out. Just he'd managed to kind of manifest as much strength as he could from that index as he could. So very exciting, and well done to Ben. Ben's often there up in kind of the high echelons of the UK scene, so seeing him get that close with Dark Angels is really exciting, and good luck to him in the next couple of events, because hopefully if he goes to some of the other kind of big UKTC events before London, I'm hoping we'll see him podium finally with them perhaps, but we'll see. And then this is the big one. So US Open at Tacoma, Jeff Dew came 6th. He took Azrael. There was 10 assault intercessors led by a Power Fist Sergeant with combi, Lieutenant with a combi weapon, 3 units of Deathwing Knights. So this is spicy. 3 units of jump assault intercessors, a squad of infiltrators. So this is something we're not seeing as often in the UK scene, and I thought was quite exciting as a concept of kind of like, there's a lot of uppy downy in all the new codexes and stuff. So having that ability to kind of block out an area, I think it's still got some value. It does come at the cost of, obviously, that is 100 points worth of models doing a nice holding thing, but it's okay, I suppose. And then 2 units of scouts, a Ravenwing Dark Shroud giving an aura of -1 and benefits of cover, and then 2 Vindicators. So where this differs to the other 2 lists is this is on a GW layout, which are not as light as you kind of, a lot of the US events used to be. If there was like a traditionally a lot of the frontline gaming ones were player place terrain and stuff as well, so there being some shooting lanes was what I'd expect. But looking at the new GW layouts, there is some, but you have to really hunt for them. So those Vindicators with the Dark Shroud is a great way of getting a mobile kind of gun line, but also with the benefits of cover on those chassis, and it's just going to make them survive a bit longer. And then a Calidus, because who wouldn't want a mobile vect uppy downy character? So Jeff's run was actually quite exciting. So I actually made more notes for his ones, because there was a lot of more unusual lists, which when I actually kind of went through them, I was like, this is cool. So round 1 he went into Votan. It had 1 land fortress, 2 squads of Jaegers, which I thought was exciting, because that's what I'm hoping we'll see more of Votan. But I think they create a lot of problems for us as Dark Angels players, because obviously they can then have some bodies in the way of us kind of trying to push through. But cool. And then he won that 100 to 46. He then went into Ryan Johnson, who had a very interesting Death Guard list, which was double Land Raider, double Hellbrute, 2 big squads of Terminators. He had a lot of Demon Engines. It was a very scary looking list, but I think Deathwing Knights were just going to chew through it, and they did. 95 to 71. Then round 3, he went into Alex Nanez with his Vanguard Tyranids. There was a lot of big beasties in it, a lot of the Trigons. It looked very scary, but he managed to pip him to the post. It was a 77-56, so onto a nice win streak there. Round 4, he goes into Tyranids again. This was an invasion fleet list, and the one thing that got me really excited was seeing Old One-Eye in the list. But that's not the most exciting thing. This ended up a 78-78 draw. You say, oh, okay, that's probably going to scupper his chances of doing really well. But no, this is an 8-round event. All the GW US events are so long. So it's actually more of a marathon than a sprint. So then round 5, he went into Noah Badome with his World Eaters, which was very much what you'd expect. Angron, lots of 8-bounds, looked pretty scary. Pips him 76-66, which I think World Eaters aren't going to necessarily like that kind of trading of like Deathwing Knights going into some of their more resilient stuff. They're just going to hit them less hard than they'd like, which is kind of cool. And then round 6, he went into Space Wolves. And when I first clicked on this list, I was like, okay, Space Wolves. So it's going to be a Stormlance list, isn't it? But no, this was Champions of Russ, led by Logan Grimnar on his sleigh with a bunch of Thunderwolves, Wolfen, and Wolf Scouts. It was exciting. I looked at it and went, that is what Space Wolves feel like they should be playing like. And looked like a very hard fought game, 72-54. So what I find interesting then is he goes into one of my favourite styles of Tau at the moment. I'm really kind of itching to see this doing better. So he went into Donald Plummer with his Retaliation Cadre, which was very much Farsight and a lot of other stuff, mostly suits, but there was enough of the other utility pieces to make it play. This was a very close game. It came down to a 92-88. And so you're like, cool, he's still on the win path. He's had one draw. Last round, he went into Steve Trimble's Tyranid, Vanguard, good stuff. Unfortunately, this is where he trips at the hurdle. 67-100. But looking at it, because it was less focused than the earlier Vanguard list that he went into, that had a lot more big stuff. This has got a lot of utility units. It's got things like lictors, all the stuff that you can just boop around and be annoying with. So that's probably what tripped him up a little bit, that he just couldn't chew through it quick enough, perhaps, because the list ended up being quite elite. But yeah, and they end up 6th place, which is fantastic as a result, especially on a field as big as it was. Yeah, and I'm really excited to see these lists, because all 3 of these, quite different, but there is definitely a foundation in them that is almost like the kind of the blueprint of you start with these units. So right, let's go look at those then. So to me, the key units, if I had to pick 4 units that you always put into a Darkangels Gladius list, is Azrael, because he gives you your CP farm. If he's on the table, you get a CP in your command phase. So it means per battle round, you're going to have at least, you're going to have your 3, which is nice. You don't have to worry about if you haven't discarded a card. He gives his unit or himself 4-up invuln, and the unit he's leading gets sustained hits 1. So there's often the opportunity to affect a unit he's leading, whether it's Hellblasters or even if it's a defensive decision. So I've been quite often putting him with Intercessors, just as your backfield objective, so you can keep farming, but also they're safe. Well, safer, because you can still kill stuff on a 4-up invuln, it's a coin flip, right? But it can be annoying, it means you have to put resource into it. Then second unit, Deathwing Knights. So to me, the swords are cool. They were mechanically better before, but now having anti-tank and anti-monster, using them as a hammer that is a little bit chewy, it's great. So 2 units of those. I'm going to try out 3, because I feel like if you're going to take anything, take the most of it, and then if you have to rein it back in, you have to rein it back in, but why not? Jump, Assault, Intercessors, and the next one. So fast infantry with their mortal wounds of Hammer Wrath, and they're super cheap. 80 points, it's just so bonkersly cheap. It's great. I traditionally put 2 units in as a minimum. That's actually a practicality thing for me a lot of the time, is actually have two units painted. But 3 has a place. That's not expensive. And then finally, Scouts. having infiltrate so you can help screen your line, the fact that they can, if they're not within 6 at the end of your opponent's turn, get picked up and then put into strat reserve, really useful. It's really good that a lot of the mission play now requires you to be on the edges or in the centre. So if you've got your jump pack guys going into the centre, your scouts can be uppy downy and kind of swing along the edges. And if people are dealing with them, they're not dealing with your important stuff. And that's what's kind of cool. So like, that's not even half the points of an army to use all those units. So after that, you've got a lot of options there. So as you can see, when we went through those 3 lists, they're quite different. They're not on horrendously different terrain, because although the GW layouts are different to the UKTC format and the Peterborough ones, we've all got a lot more staging in our kind of our formats now. So it's quite exciting. What would be, so guys, let me know in the chat, what would be your favourite unit that you always put in a list for Gladius specifically? And I really look forward to hearing, because I personally, on top of these ones, I love slapping in the Inner Circle Companions and the Line, because both of them really benefit from an advance and charge turn. I don't think they're mechanically the best and most optimum way to play the army, but sometimes you just want to take your cool toys, right? And they are not rubbish. They're not. It's not like you're going, I've taken a 300-point penalty bringing the Line now. He can do some great work, and he will. So, right, what's up next? So, as I'm recording this, we've got live the WTC's lists. I've been going through them for about a week ahead of time, kind of list checking as part of the Wales team that I'm on. Next week I will do a video going through all of the lists, comparing them, trying to understand what their role is, because what's always interesting looking in a teams format is that it's not just as simple as just I want to win. It's like, what are they going into, what are they trying to avoid, are they trying to just get a very kind of tight draw, or are they trying to be quite a bully unit, kind of bully army? We'll see. And then at the end of that one, I'll probably go through with some updates on my army itself, because I'm doing some hobby projects. I'm going to keep chipping away at it. I may do that as its own separate thing, just to kind of give it a bit more breath and kind of energy itself. But yeah, until next week, guys. See ya.